Hi everyone. In this video, we will understand Sales Qualification Agent in Dynamics 365 Sales in simple language. The idea is straightforward. Sales teams often receive many leads from different sources, but not every lead is ready for a seller. This agent helps research, qualify, and prioritize leads before they are handed over to the sales team. So instead of sellers spending time on every raw lead, they can focus on leads that have better fit, stronger intent, and clear next steps. Let's first understand the business problem this agent is trying to solve. Let us first look at the problem. Leads can come from website forms, webinars, events, partner campaigns, referrals, and inbound inquiries. But after a lead is created, someone still needs to research the company, check the contact role, understand the need, and decide whether this lead deserves immediate attention. When this is done manually, response time becomes slow, follow up becomes inconsistent, and good leads may be missed. The real gap is that sellers need useful context before they can confidently act on a lead. So now that we know the problem, let's see what sales qualification agent actually does. Sales qualification agent automates the first qualification layer. It researches the lead, evaluates the lead against your defined rules, and recommends the next action. It is important to understand that this is not a replacement for the seller. The seller still owns the relationship and the final decision. The agent supports the seller by preparing better information, applying consistent rules, and helping the seller focus on leads that are more likely to convert. To understand this better, let's see how the agent actually works. So this slide shows the end-to-end flow. First, the agent selects leads that match the criteria you have configured. Second, it researches the lead and gathers useful company and contact context. Third, it evaluates fit, interest, and readiness. Fourth, it decides whether the lead should continue processing, be disqualified, or be prepared for the seller handoff. Finally, if the lead is good enough, it is handed over to the seller with context. So the seller does not start from zero. All right. So then next slide is about the two operating modes this agent has. So it can yes work in two operating modes. The first mode is research only. In this mode, the agent prepares insights such as company summary, lead fit indicators, qualification notes, and the suggested next steps. The sellers then uses this information to decide what to do. The second mode is research plus engage. So in this mode, the agent can research the lead and also start engagement before the handoff based on the configuration of the agent. The right mode depends on how much control your organization wants the agent to have. All right. Um, Moving on to the next slide. Now let us take a generic example that can apply to almost any of the businesses. A company receives leads from website forms, campaigns, webinars, and referrals. One new lead is a website demo lead. The contact is a business manager. The interest is a product or a service demo, and the source is a website inquiry. The lead has asked for pricing and implementation details, which is useful buying signal. Because of these signals, the lead is now being processed by the agent. All right. So the first important step is deciding which leads the agent should even pick. Selection criteria decide which leads the agent should process. For example, you may want the agent to process leads from certain industries, locations, roles, sources, or interest types. This is useful because not every lead needs AI qualification. A good practice is to start with a narrow segment, test the quality of results, and then expand the criteria slowly. This helps avoid noise, makes the agent more reliable for the sellers. So once the right leads are selected, the agent starts researching them. After the agent researches a lead, it can prepare a simple summary for the seller. This may include the company summary, the need signal, buyer context, and a suggested next step. So in this example, the lead has asked about pricing, implementation timeline, and next steps. That shows possible buying interest. The agent also highlights gaps such as budget, authority, and decision timeline not being confirmed yet. This gives the seller a practical starting point for the conversation. Then the next slide turns the research into a seller friendly decision view. The agent may show indicators such as customer fit, purchase interest, authority signal, and urgency. These indicators help the seller understand why a lead is becoming recommended. In this example, the agent recommends the status as ready for seller handoff because the company fit is strong. The interest signal is meaningful and the contact role looks relevant. The seller can then review the research, validate budget and timeline, and book a discovery call. The next slide is about the handoff criteria. So, handoff criteria define what must be true before a lead is sent to the seller. A common way to think about this is budget, authority, need, and timeline. Budget means there is some project or commercial context. Authority means the contact has buying influence or can connect the seller to a decision maker. Need means the product or service is relevant. And timeline means there is some urgency or near term interest. So you can keep this framework or replace it with your own qualification model as well. Then the next slide is the seller workspace views. So once the agent starts processing the leads, seller needs a clean way to track what is happening. So that is where seller workspace views help. Leads can be grouped as being processed, handed over, or disqualified. So this makes the work queue much easier to understand. For example, a website demo lead may be ready for handoff with high priority, while another campaign lead may still be processing. And a low fit lead can be disqualified so the seller does not waste time on it. And we have different views um, to categorize these different leads. All right. Then we have the setup checklist. So this slide gives us a sample setup checklist. First, create or enable the agent profile. Then add company information and website details because the agent needs to understand your business. Next, describe your products, services, and value propositions. After that, configure selection criteria and handoff criteria. Then test with sample leads, review how the agent processes them, and refine the rules before rolling it out more widely. The key is to configure, test, learn, and yes, improve. Um, yeah, the key takeaways are, I would say, are simple. First, the agent reduces manual research, so sellers spending less time on repetitive leads. Second, it supports faster qualification by applying consistent rules to leads. And third, it improves seller focus because sellers can now spend more time with the leads that are more likely to convert. So, in simple words, sellers are spending more time on the more useful leads, and that's why the sales qualification gives sellers research leads a clearer handoff and a faster action. All right. Yes. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who wants to learn Dynamics 365 CRM or Power Platform.